All right, well, welcome back to Yankee Chatter. This is episode number 2 of our Sportcast series of the New York Yankees. My name is Greg Andriano.
And I am Brad McCormick.
And we are here to talk about all the things that happened in the last week in Yankee universe. There were a number of things. If you've been paying attention, some signings, some trades. So let's dive right into it. What do you say, Brad?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, before we do that,
let's quickly say on Twitter I'm at BradderChatter1, and go ahead with your stuff.
And you can find me at TPC _ Yankees blog on Twitter, and you can just search the Pinstripe Chronicle on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, follow, like, share, do all that stuff for us.
Yep. Subscribe.
And you guys are the key to getting more viewers. So I hope you like what you hear and share it. Ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right.
So earlier this week, the Yankees signed relief pitcher Adam Ottavino, who played for the Colorado Rockies last season, actually for a couple seasons. He apparently has one of the nastiest sliders in the game, so he will definitely add to the potency of this Yankees bullpen. He was one of the big relievers available outside of Kimbrel, probably the biggest name reliever that was still available. So I think my big question, I think everyone in the world is wondering, will the Yankees let him wear number 0?
That's the big question, huh?
That is the big question. Probably not. I doubt it. They don't usually let players wear number 0, but it'll be a pleasant surprise.
Do you think anybody has ever asked them to wear 0 before?
I feel like I've heard that before. I want to say someone tried to. Remember Brian Bruni? Back when they won the World Series. He actually was the last Yankee to wear number 99 before Aaron Judge.
Okay.
And he won it he wore it in 2009 as a relief pitcher, and I think he asked to wear 00 or 0, and the Yankees said no, so he took number 99. So I doubt it, but it'd be kind of cool if someone wore number 0. Just my honest opinion. I like that kind of stuff. So
I do too. I really like the number 0. Sticks out. The guy does not have a problem with all the attention being on him. But I mean, the Yankees won't even let a guy have a beard, then I don't think they're going to let a guy wear number 0 either. So
it's funny you say that, because I was thinking they'll probably let someone wear 0 as soon as they get rid of the facial hair.
But I mean, they keep retiring all these numbers. They're going to have to add a number 0 eventually.
Yeah.
It's either triple digits or 0.
That's right. So there's that. But so last year let's get back into his numbers. Last year in Colorado, he was one of the most dominant relievers in the game. I believe he made an all-star appearance. In 75 games, he put up a 2.43 ERA in 77 2/3 innings pitched, and he struck out 112 batters. That's like Betances numbers right there.
Right.
And he put those numbers up at Coors Field, which if any pitcher can do that, that is crazy. That is a good pitcher. You need to pick him up. My only concern is that he turns into Canely 2.0. Because he was you don't think so? Well, it's just sitting in the back of my mind. He probably won't, and it's probably just me overthinking things. But Canely was having one of those dominant years when they picked him up from the White Sox, and last year he kind of fell off the radar. So could it happen? It's possible, but in all likelihood, no. Especially when you have the bullpen that the Yankees have now. If you want to talk a little bit about what they have, maybe we can just say.
Well, a couple things about Canely. Canely, yes, he had dominant. He's more dominant in Chicago than he was obviously last year for the Yankees. He was really good for the Yankees when he first came over, and then he this past year he lost the strike zone, which means he tried to throw more fastballs, and when you're that predictable, that stuff happens. Plus, Canely was also in a bullpen that was stacked. So I think in most teams he stays in the big leagues and he might work through those issues. But the Yankees, they have so many guys back there.
That's true.
Down.
Especially with the emergence of Jonathan Holder last season, he pretty much took the place of Canely, and probably if he has a good spring, I would see Holder doing the same this year. Now the Yankees on top of Ottavino, you have Jonathan Holder, Chad Green, Dellin Betances, Zach Britton, and closing it out with Aroldis Chapman. A lot of people are saying that this might be the most dominant bullpen in Major League history. The Yankees had a really good bullpen last year, and a lot of people are saying that they've improved upon it for this season.
Yeah, I agree. Last year they said it was the greatest bullpen in the history, and this year you get Britton for a whole season. He's probably better. He's better than what he was last year. Ottavino's better than
Robertson.
Ottavino's up there than Robertson. Robertson just got too old. This is a great bullpen, and I relate Ottavino to Jeff Nelson more than Kane. Remember, Nelson had that great slider.
Right.
Basically the same kind of pitcher. He was so important for them in all those 90s years.
That's true.
I'm really excited about this.
He was the big setup man for Mariano during the dynasty years.
People forget that. And he had that nasty slider, that sidearm delivery. I think Ottavino is more of his class. So that's why I'm so excited about Ottavino. Now, you're talking about Holder and Canely. Yes, I think one of them stays on the team. One of them might take a backseat because they're basically the same pitcher, if you ask me.
Yeah, I can see that. And I also think that bringing in Britton and Britton and Ottavino, and maybe keeping Canely, Sessa becomes expendable. Now, you could also lump Canely into that conversation as well. They could, in essence, trade one of these guys because you got a couple guys in the minor leagues that could come up and fill in some roles there. But if these guys, these core, we got 6 guys here that they could become, if they stay healthy, the most dominant bullpens. You're not going to have space for Sessa or Canely. Sessa is out of options, I believe, so he's not.
Well, who's the Yankees' long reliever right now? Do they have one?
Well, up until yesterday, Sonny Gray.
That's what I mean. So I think Sessa is their long reliever now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Warren anymore.
Nope. I mean, Warren is still an option. He is a free agent. I doubt they bring him back a third time, but you never know.
Unless they bring up someone like Loizica to be the long reliever. I could see that happening too.
Also, I think there's Domingo Acevedo, but he's more of I think he turns into more of a Dellin Betances type down the road.
Right. That's what I've heard too.
So, but it would be nice if they do get rid of Sessa or Canely, if they could get some prospects back like they're doing with the Sonny Gray trade, which we will get into in a little bit. But they do need to. It is. You can never have too much pitching. We said it last week, and we'll probably say it a million times the rest of the time we do this podcast. So it's just it's the effectiveness of these guys. If Canely can't bring it back to what he had before he came to New York, and Sessa can't find it, then these guys might not be around for very long.
And competition, it brings out the best in people. So
absolutely,
really interesting spring training.
Which you can apply that to the whole Greg Bird and Luke Voit situation. Right. I mean, look at, and we don't have to talk about this for very long, but look at a couple years ago before Greg Bird got injured, coming out of spring training, he had one of the most incredible springs I've seen in a long time. He hit 400. He hit like 8 home runs in spring, and then him
and Harper were tied for the most home runs in spring training.
And he had competition because he was going up against I can't even remember who he was going up against. Tyler Austin, and he put that spring together, and that's what won him the starting first baseman job. So maybe that's what Cashman's thinking here is if you give him a little competition, he might become the Greg Bird that we remember, not the Greg Bird that he's kind of turned into. And if worst case scenario, you get Luke Voit, who put together an excellent season last year after he came over from St. Louis.
He did.
And there's no
topic, but I think the Greg Bird issue was I put that problem squarely on Cashman because he should never have been put right into the starting lineup last year. He should have been starting in the minors, getting his timing back.
His recovery time down in AAA was not long enough. He clearly looked out. He looked uncomfortable. He looked like he was being rushed, and that's not fair to Greg Bird, and it's not fair to the Yankees. They should have gave Tyler Austin more time. They probably shouldn't have traded him when they did. Not that
he did a really good for Minnesota. They're happy.
Yeah, he did, and he'll probably turn into now that I think they signed Logan Morrison or someone to play first base. They traded. They picked up someone from Tampa to play first that played first last year. Maybe it was CJ Cron.
Yes, they did.
I think it was, and he'll probably get a lot of time at first base. So maybe Tyler Austin becomes a DH or a right fielder or something. But he put together a good season. I would have liked to seen him get more time as the Twins first baseman. But coming back to
I like him.
Yeah, he's always a good guy, especially after the whole Joe Kelly brawl last year.
I like that fire he had there.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice. It would be nice to see some other Yankees get that. But as far as go ahead.
Just say real quick on Ottavino before we get way off topic is my biggest question on him: can Gary Sanchez catch a slider? It's funny, but it's true.
It is.
It's a very fair question.
That's the $1 million question. If you go on Twitter right now, that anything that comes up about Gary Sanchez is can he catch that nasty slider? And I think he will. I think he needs to get used to it. It's big thing about catching and hitting is picking up a pitcher's release point. And I think once he gets more comfortable with them, he'll be able to. And, if you've seen pictures of Gary Sanchez online lately, he's lost a lot of weight. He's not the same guy he was coming into last offseason. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way for the Yankees this year.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He's going to work with Ottavino all spring training. When you know what's coming, it's easier to catch. I think he'll be just fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Now he's going to be in this is his second or third full season now. Third full season. As the Yankees catcher, I think he's going to grow a lot and be more of what they were looking for. He just needs to stay healthy.
Well, this is his season to prove himself. If he can't prove that he's a more consistent player, both behind the plate and at the bat, then they're going to have to look to make a move.
Yep. I think him and Bird are going to be under the same microscope this year. Maybe he gets a longer leash than Bird, just because of the fact that
he's done.
Yeah, he may not hit for average, but he's still got a cannon for an arm, and he can still probably hit 20 home runs. He may not hit 280 like he did 2 years ago, but for a catcher, that's good.
Look at the kind of home runs he hit at Fenway last year in the playoffs, and you're like,
absolutely,
you can't get rid of that talent.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we'll see what happens. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about Manny Machado.
Gotta talk about Manny.
Yep. We don't really have to get into Bryce Harper because not much has changed on him. But this past week, a lot has popped up about Manny Machado. He hasn't signed yet. A lot of people are saying the Yankees are out of the running. I don't think they are. I will not think they are until he's being announced and he picks up another team's jersey and says, "I'm glad to be a part of this team." That's going to sell it for me. I know a lot of people out there probably think I'm crazy, but that's going to be the case. You don't know. Yankees can pounce at any moment, as we've seen in the past. I mean, what do you think, Brad?
I think a week ago I would agree with you, but I think now I got to leave that train, man. I got to move on. I think Manny's in the past. I think they have their sights set on other people that we'll get talking about. Yep. The fact is that the Yankees, as an organization, couldn't all get on the same page concerning wanting Manny Machado, so it wasn't worth the money. Is that the right thing? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to pass up a guy with that talent, but they really do have their bigger and greater things, and they have a team right now that's better than last year's 100-win team. I'm okay with it, but as far as where Manny's going, I honestly think it's not going to be the Yankees.
That's a fair assumption, and you're probably not wrong. I just don't believe it, just because of the whole Mark Teixeira situation back in 2009. Right. You just don't know. It'll be a pleasant surprise if he is a Yankee, but if he doesn't sign with them, I'm not going to be overly shocked. But some of the rumors that came out this past week, they're saying the White Sox are the favorites. Apparently there was a video shot by Yonder Alonso's wife with Manny Machado in the background wearing a White Sox hat. I don't know if you heard about this.
Every little thing they could find.
He's like way in the background, and he's definitely wearing a black hat, but you can't tell what it is. People are saying he's already signed with the White Sox. I don't know. And then his dad, his estranged father, who he doesn't really associate with anymore, saying that everyone's giving him an offer that is planned to give him an offer, including the Yankees. But then there's people coming out of the Yankees camp saying they haven't offered him anything yet. It's just everything's all over the place, and I'm kind of getting tired of it, to be honest with you. It's just there's no consistency with the reporting. And
I think these sources have to be more accountable. Like I can't stand people say my sources tell me, and it's something that's so out of left field. Like we need to be holding these writers, reporters more accountable for their sources.
I completely agree. And Machado's agent, he called them out this past week. I believe it was Buster Olney, and I don't remember who the other guy was. Maybe it was John Morosi. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to that, but definitely Olney was one of them. And he called him out. He said, you know, check your sources. You can't be just throwing information out there. And he's absolutely right. It makes Machado look bad. It makes everyone involved look bad, really. And you can't have that. These guys need to be held accountable. So that brings me to the point where, you know, maybe the Yankees aren't completely out of it. They're definitely monitoring it, and they wouldn't be doing their due diligence if they weren't monitoring the whole situation. Because there was a rumor out there that the White Sox put a 7-year, $175 million or so offer out on the table. And if that's the case, and you're the Yankees, and that's all they're offering, and that's all the market is, then you need to kind of reconsider your stance on him. If you can get him for $200 million and add on an 8th year, you might as well try, right? I mean,
$200 million. Yeah, it's not what anyone, especially the Yankees, even thought was possible to sign.
That's less than Cano. It's $25 million a year, which would be more annual average compared to Cano.
Just the AAV.
AAV from now on. But it's still less.
Do you believe the agent that it was a real offer, or it wasn't a real offer? Or do you believe the sources that it was a real offer?
That's kind of, I'm confused because they painted this huge picture of him and Bryce Harper being around the first to get around $400 million, and to come in that low, especially compared to people who've gotten $175 million contract, Jacoby Ellsbury. You know, he is not the same caliber of player as Ellsbury. Machado is far superior, and it surprises me. So I don't believe it 100%. But in the off chance that it is, you go for it.
You know, I think there's two ways looking at it. Lozano could be coming out like this because he doesn't want teams to know that's how low the market is right now. Because everyone's being lowballed him. He'll probably get a ton of offers around $200 million. But from what I've heard from people, Lozano is not really the kind of agent to speak publicly. So the fact that he came out so angry and concerned about these sources makes me believe that this really was not correct, not truly reported.
Right. I agree with that. And that's why I kind of don't believe it. I'm leaning more towards that than anything. But it is said that he will take the highest offer. So it kind of makes sense that Lozano, would come out and say something like that, because he doesn't want, like you said, he doesn't want teams knowing where the market is. So they'll come in and say, oh, well, that rumor wasn't true. I still want to offer $280 million or $250 million. And that's why he wants to build up Machado's market. So I would say more or less he's protecting him in the sense that the offer's not true. But in the back of your mind, you're still thinking about it.
I don't think the White Sox would go after a guy named Machado and offer him that contract, honestly, thinking that he might like it. Because all you're going to do is insult the guy if that's a real offer.
Well,
and that's not going to make you any friends.
And that goes back to the whole Cano situation. I know I harp on him a lot because he was my favorite Yankee when that happened. And I was upset when he left for all that money. But, I mean, you look at what the Yankees offered him, and they offered him it wasn't much more than what they offered Ellsbury, and he was insulted because they're not the same caliber player.
Yeah.
So if I'm Machado and I'm all this was built up to be, he's getting all this money or could get all this money this year, and now it's not, I would be a little insulted. I mean, you're undervaluing his performance, you're undervaluing his abilities. It's not. That's where we are, and this could lead into a much larger issue coming down the road. When the next CBA collective bargaining agreement expires, there could be a potential strike, and this could be a big conversation for another time. But you mentioned it last week, and it's kind of been through social media this past week. Evan Longoria posted something. I think Jake Arrieta posted something about how these free agents are being handled, and I know we have a topic on that later, so maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. But it does apply to Machado too.
We'll definitely have to talk about it later. It's just a big problem when you have two of the game's top generational talents and so few teams involved in them. It's a problem. And we're going to talk about that later in the show here. But it's a big problem, and major leaguers are seeing this, and it's gonna come to a boiling point at some point.
It will, and I would not be surprised if there's another player strike. I mean, the last one we had was back in '94, and as a fan, that's devastating. You want to watch your team play. You want to watch baseball, especially when baseball, like for me, baseball is my favorite sport. So if there's no baseball, I'm kind of miserable. Like right now, with all the, even though it's football playoffs and college basketball and the NHL is going on, and I do have teams that I follow, I would much rather
we're still
watch
sitting here
baseball. We're talking about Yankees.
Yeah.
My season never ends. My baseball season never ends, and it's not because I live in Florida and I get to play year round softball, but it is. I mean, it's what I'm most passionate about. So
yeah, you're playing softball. I'm snowballing 2 feet of snow. I mean,
yeah,
who's the smart one here?
I have 3 games this week. What are you doing, Brad?
I am throwing rock salt down on my bed.
Yeah, you guys got what, about a foot of snow?
Yeah, plus between 16 18 inches. Yeah.
Oh, even more.
It was a good one. It was a good storm, yeah.
I've been getting pictures from my dad all day, so I don't miss that. I don't miss shoveling at all. I don't envy you guys.
Honest to God, I'm snowblowing my driveway today, and it's taking me a couple hours to think about a lot of things. I'm thinking to myself, if I'm a free agent, thank God as a Yankee fan, they have such a great reputation. Because if I'm a free agent, why would I come to New York? It's first of all, it's the highest tax state. Second of all, it's the highest living. It's the most expensive to live in state. And third of all, you saw those guys last April. They were miserable because it was 30, 40 degrees out when they're playing home games. So
and it's not just the
Yankees have a good reputation.
Yeah, and it's not just the Yankees. You got to think about Boston. You got to think about Boston, Cleveland, Minnesota, Seattle. All these places are cold during opening day, and it might dissuade someone from signing with them. And you're right. Luckily, they do have the reputation, that history that you hope persuades someone to sign with them. I don't know. It's crazy. It's a lot. So many things to consider as a free agent that I'm fortunate I don't have to think about. But at the same time,
I wish I had to think about it.
Yeah, it'd be nice because I wouldn't mind getting $25 million a year.
Right.
So, anyways, so we talked about So another thing that popped up this week was that the Padres are very interested in acquiring Corey Kluber. They have the prospects to do it. They have one of the deepest systems in the major leagues. They could definitely pull off a trade. But the big thing is that if they acquire him, they would flip him. Definitely trade him away. And they're looking for a third baseman. Well, who has a third baseman that they could potentially trade away? The Yankees do, right?
If they don't sign Machado.
If they happen to sign Machado, then they have a plethora of third basemen, probably one that would not see much playing time. His name's Miguel Andujar, and the Padres have been linked to Andujar before. They're very interested. So, in theory, they could acquire Kluber through a trade with San Diego. What are your immediate thoughts on this?
I think in a perfect world, that's a great situation. That Indians won't trade to the Yankees because they know they'll have to play in the playoffs, or there's a possibility of it.
Well, they wouldn't trade. They wouldn't even do a straight deal with them to begin with because of that.
That's what I mean.
So they have to have that in the back of them.
Yeah. I think I love it. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I think the Indians would purposely wait until someone like Machado signs, because that way they'll know if the Yankees can even do it. Because if they don't get Machado, they're not trading Andujar away.
Nope, they can't.
I think
there's no reason to.
Will do what they can to make sure this does not happen, which means I don't see it happening unless it's
which
something
means,
that they get like the trade deadline.
Yeah, which means the Yankees would have to either sign Machado now, or they make another move, which we will get into after this part of the conversation. Yeah. And that's get another third baseman via the trade market. So let's play hypothetical here. If San Diego did actually make this trade, and you're the Yankees, and you're Brian Cashman, would you do it? Would you jump back into the ring and try and get Kluber?
The Yankees, pretty much every offseason in recent years, say their number one target is starting pitching. So I don't know why they wouldn't. I would definitely go to Kluber. If Andujar was expendable, I do it. I give them a top pitching prospect, Andujar, and a draft pick, something. I'm third piece that they're going to want. I do it. I give it to them for Kluber.
No Ellsbury? You don't think they'll take Ellsbury?
Oh, I'd love to trade away Ellsbury. But why would the Padres do it? Unless the Padres think they can win within the next few years and can handle that contract, but I don't see that happening.
Well, even if they were, they would probably ask the Yankees to contribute. But if
to most
the
of
nice
money,
thing about that deal would be that would be a big salary dump for them to take on a contract like Machado's, which is
that'd be great.
That'd be great. And another player that they probably could have dangled in front of San Diego was Sonny Gray, but unfortunately, something else has happened on that front, and we'll get into that in a minute. So you're saying in order to get Kluber from the Padres, you would need to give Andujar, you need to give a top pitching prospect,
definitely,
like a Loaiziga, maybe. I mean, he's their top pitcher in the system right now, or Chance Adams, and a low-level prospect.
The Yankees can afford to do. They can afford to do.
They have a deep system now. Yeah,
they could definitely do that. So I think if San Diego was able to get Kluber, I think the Yankees would become the number one team involved with them through a trade. I think they could do it.
Oh, absolutely. They have past experience with them. They traded Chase Headley, Yangervis Solarte.
Solarte, yeah.
They have a history with San Diego. They could possibly make a deal. And I made a tweet a couple days ago saying, well, Yankees should do this, and I had some guy respond and say, well, Cleveland would make some sort of agreement with the Padres where they can't.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
It's not legal.
It's not, one, it's not legal, and two, that's stupid. That is the dumbest thing. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You can't tell another team what they can and cannot do with a player once
that trade happens. He's property of San Diego, and they do whatever they want with him.
Yeah, and if the Yankees had the best offer on the table, which odds are they would, then if you're San Diego, you'd be dumb not to accept that trade.
Yeah. So what is this? The honor system?
Oh, we'll trade you this as long as you don't trade him to the Yankees. I mean, if you're trading with a division rival, obviously they're not going to trade to the Yankees. That's dumb. They're going to have to see Kluber 3 or 4 times a year. That doesn't make any sense. But the Padres are in the National League West. They're not going to. They don't care about the.
They don't mind the Yankees.
No,
they're not
absolutely. Especially if they're going to get
anytime soon.
Yeah, especially if they're going to get a bunch of prospects from the Yankees. What would stop you from that? So anyway,
San Diego doing a heartbeat.
Yeah, there's been some shenanigans online like that, and I don't get it. I can see why they would not trade to San Diego because they would turn them around and trade to the Yankees, but to tell them not to, that's dumb.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And that would happen, but that being said, I still think I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. There's all these crazy things that could happen, and I just don't think the Yankees get Kluber because they're not going to sign Machado. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I don't see this happening. Anyways, I have a feeling that Kluber is not going to be traded this year.
Well,
at least
I don't get what
not in the
doing.
preseason.
Cleveland's they have the division handed to them, and they're worried about dishing these guys out. Do you know how many people Cleveland has lost? It's staggering how many pieces of their team last year that they have lost.
And I'm surprised they still have Lindor and Jose Ramirez. I'm surprised they haven't traded them away.
I mean, the Twins have quietly added some pieces. They need Cleveland needs to look out for Minnesota this year.
Yep, and they were going to last year, but Minnesota completely underperformed last year. They were really the only competition Cleveland had at all because the Royals they're rebuilding, the Tigers are rebuilding. So really, all you have is the Twins and the Indians. I mean,
Twins need Sano and Buxton to have big bounce back years. And I think they'll be right there.
Yep. And especially if Cleveland keeps getting rid of these guys. I mean, they got Carlos Santana back, which is a big thing. They lost Edwin Encarnacion, but I mean, aren't they pretty much? Well, Encarnacion's a little bit better power numbers, but you have a defensive player in Santana and a guy who can hit for more average in Santana. So I think they're making out better there, but they're definitely not the same team they were the last year. And like you said, they've had the division handed to them the last 2 or 3 years. Why change that? There's no competition unless they really feel like they can still handle it. But if teams start making moves like the Royals are, then or not the Royals, the Twins. Then why get rid of guys? So, anyways, I don't see this happening. It'd be crazy and cool if it did, and it would be like Cashman is some sort of ninja, but. No, I don't see that
Which people have said he is.
Yep, Cash Ninja. So, moving on, the thing that it hasn't been announced by either team yet, but as of yesterday, It was announced that the Yankees are about to close out a trade with the Cincinnati Reds, sending right-hand pitcher Sonny Gray to Cincinnati in exchange for their number 7 overall prospect, Shed Long. That's a fun name.
Shed, yeah.
Yeah. A draft pick and a third player that has yet to be named. I haven't been on Twitter lately, so I don't know if any of that's come out. But as far as I know, it hasn't been officially announced or finalized. But, this is probably a good thing for Sonny Gray. It gets him out of New York. And
it's a good thing for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He'll be good. He's gonna be good in Cincinnati. He wanted to get away, and just wanted him away. I think his career will start to come back a little bit to what it used to be in Cincinnati. I think it's good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Ottavino signing hasn't been officially announced yet by the Yankees either. It's done deal.
Physicals and 40-man roster stuff.
Yeah. Yep, he's not on the 40-man roster yet. So trading Gray away will open up a spot for him. But also, Shed Long was on the Reds 40-man roster. So bringing him over in a trade, the Yankees would have to clear a spot for him. Otherwise, they'd have to DFA him. So I would expect another corresponding 40-man roster move coming, which brings up the whole conversation about Luis Sessa or Tommy Kahnle. Obviously, Kahnle disappeared off the Yankees' radar, and they traded for him specifically in that trade from the White Sox. So it'd be sad to see them give up on him. But, one of these guys are going to have to be DFA'd.
What about Tyler Wade? Is he still on the 40-man?
Tyler Wade is, but I wouldn't expect them to.
They have a pretty crowded infield.
They do, but I still see him as a Ronald Torreyes type this year. I could see him being a pinch runner since he's so fast. He is very good with the glove. So I don't see that. So
you think they keep him around? Okay.
I think they keep him around. But so looking back at this trade, you're getting a guy in Shed Long. He's a left-handed hitter. He's a middle infielder. I think he played second base last year with the Reds double A team.
Yeah.
He hit 261. He hit 12 home runs and 56 RBIs in almost an entire season. He's a good young hitter. He could make his way up through the Yankee system. And if he develops a little bit more, he could turn into a nice trade chip down the road. But
trade chip or another reason to let Tyler Wade go.
Yeah, exactly.
Just throwing that out there.
Yep, no, it's touche. So trading Gray also clears up about $8 million worth of salary, which is a good thing. They're already over the $206 million tax threshold. Now there are tiers in the tax threshold.
Right.
So this year they would, I don't know the exact numbers, but if they go over 246 million, I think that kicks it up a notch.
Yeah, I think they're 215 or
something
they're
like
well
that.
below the second threshold.
Mm-hmm. So going back to Gray, he needed to get out of the Yankees. He needed to. He was 4-4 last year at Yankee Stadium with a 6.98, almost a 7 ERA and 60 innings pitched. He's a completely different starter away from Yankee Stadium. He went 7-5. He had almost a 3 ERA, 3.17, and 71 innings. He pitched far more away from Yankee Stadium, and he was far more effective. And so the reason why Gray was so valuable in this offseason as a trade chip was the fact that he performed away from Yankee Stadium. Teams could take a flyer on him in hopes that he would have a rebound season, because the reason Yankees traded for him is because he was having a phenomenal season with the A's. I don't see this being any different once he puts on a Reds uniform.
No, I think it's going to be more the same as it was in Oakland. It's the same kind of situation in Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati's ballpark is a lot like Yankee Stadium. Balls fly, which gets me a little worried because he gives up the long ball a lot.
That's true.
But I think he'll be able to relax and be more himself in Cincinnati. He just did not get along from day one with the fans in New York. He had that famous incident last year where after he got pulled early in the game, he was smiling on his way back to the dugout and everyone was fooling him.
Yep.
It just never really clicked with him in New York. You could always tell in his post-game interviews he wasn't happy. So I think he's more to himself. He gets back to himself in Cincinnati. It's not going to be easy because that ballpark, but I think that and that division is not very easy either. It's going to be better than it was in New York. Definitely a lot better in New York.
I see him having a similar situation to Harvey last year. He could come, Harvey bounced back in a big way and as a Red, and now he's got a multi-year deal from the Angels. I believe he signed with the Angels. Yeah. So this could do a number of good things for Sonny Gray. I believe he's a free agent after this year anyways. So, put up 16 wins as a Red and pitch to these numbers that you had on the road as a Yankee, and you could see him probably getting a 2 or 3 year deal, 4-year deal after he's becomes a free agent. Probably goes back to Oakland since he's had all his success there, and they probably want him back.
If they want him back, I don't see why he wouldn't go there.
Well, Oakland's desperate for starting pitching, and if he can bounce back to that pitcher, I don't see it. I don't see why he doesn't go back.
Yeah, and it's like they're not going to be able to afford him because he's not going to demand top dollar, I wouldn't say.
So all you people out there thinking, well, we gave away all this big talent to even acquire Sonny Gray. Let's just briefly discuss what we gave up again. Yankees gave up Dustin Fowler, James Caprillion, and Jorge Mateo, which were 3 of the Yankees' top prospects at the time. And the only player out of those 3 that has even seen the major league level has been Dustin Fowler. He started the season last year with the A's, and he struggled. He struggled in a big way. He only played 69 games with the A's, and he only put up a 224 average. He just didn't perform. Caprillion, he had Tommy John surgery. He was recovering from that when he was traded. He hasn't even thrown a pitch in a professional game since being traded. And Jorge Mateo, he played a full season in AAA last year, and I think he's regressed in a big way. So if you look at it, the Yankees turned Sonny Gray. I mean, he was disappointing, but they turned him into a prospect, a high-level prospect. And you gave up guys who were held at a high regard in the Yankee system, but they really haven't panned out for the A's. Not to say that they won't, but they haven't yet.
Well, it might be too early to tell on Caprillion and Fowler. Mateo, I'm giving up on him. Mm-hmm. I was always a big fan of him in the Yankee system, and he never took that next step. He had kind of an attitude issue. So I don't know about him. But Fowler and Caprillion, I'm still going to hold out on because they're prospects. They were prospects in the game for the A's. They need time to develop.
Mm-hmm. I know.
We'll see.
I know.
The jury's still out on those.
Yeah, I know Fowler was your boy when he was in the Yankee system, and it was kind of disappointing to see him get traded away, especially after what happened to him that one game in Chicago. So yeah, you're right. I mean, they could bounce back. Fowler's only 24. Caprillion's only 25. They're still young guys.
Right. We'll wait and see those.
I would take more stock in Fowler bouncing back in a big way, but Caprillion having Tommy John surgery, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, that's kind of what the Yankees are going through with Montgomery right now. He might come back and he might be the same pitcher he was. He might be better. He could be a lot worse. It's a tricky surgery to bounce back from. So yeah, I agree with you, Brad. They could have something left in the tank, but Mateo, forget it. He's not the same guy.
We're on the same page there.
Yep.
All right.
So
I think we'll chalk it up as an even trade for now. It's kind of like the Seattle trade with Pineda and
I mean,
the fat guy there.
They got something. They got some time. They got some innings out of Sonny Gray, but he was not the pitcher they traded for, unfortunately. Yeah. So, anyways, looking forward to seeing what they do as a follow up to this move. Obviously, they need to do something with the extra guys on the 40-man roster. Maybe they end up flipping Shed Long. You don't know. I don't know what their plans are.
That's the first thing I thought was him just being another piece that Cashman can flip at some point. Because that infield's pretty much set for a while, unless they're not going to make Didi a long-term extension.
Which Cashman has said that he would like to bring back Hicks and Didi in an extension. So for him to come out and say that,
if you have Didi and you're going to have Torres for a while, then Shed Long's not going to be positioned. So you're either going to move Torres over to shortstop and not give Didi an extension, or your Shed Long is just going to be a utility guy or a trade piece. I think it's going to be a trade piece.
Yep. Which, the thing that they could do is, like we said, you can never have too much pitching. Could they turn this around and make an offer for a Madison Bumgarner or something like that? You don't know.
I hope so. I mean,
that would be nice because the Yankees could use another ace-like pitcher. You can never have too many. I don't know how many times we can say this, and I don't know how many times people are like, well, no, I wouldn't give up the talent for that. But, what if Severino gets hurt? What if Tanaka gets hurt? What if these guys get hurt? Yeah. Your key pitchers. That could be a problem. What happened last season? Do you want that to necessarily happen again? If you have 6 or 7 really good starters and 2 or 3 aces, or guys that could be aces elsewhere, you're sitting pretty with the starting rotation. You really are, especially with injuries that could
you put
always.
Bumgarner into that postseason rotation, be unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's where he performs. Mm-hmm. Bumgarner, if the Yankees fall back into that wild card game, you could put Bumgarner on there, and you know you're gonna win the wild card game.
Yeah, easily. And the other wonderful thing about acquiring someone like Bumgarner is that that's another lefty you have. You have Happ, you have Paxton, you have CC, and now Montgomery, and now you have someone like Bumgarner. That's Bumgarner. five lefties. And for a ballpark like Yankee Stadium, you can never have too many lefties.
Yeah.
So
you want to neutralize left-handed hitters as much as you can.
Big time. And guys like that will definitely do the trick. So speaking of teams out in the West, the other big rumor that surfaced this week was the Yankees gearing up to make a run for Nolan Arenado. He becomes a free agent after the 2019 season, but there has been talk of the Yankees potentially trying to make a deal for him now with the intent of making an offer to extend him after this year.
Right.
Which is a nice fallback plan to Machado because Arenado is one of the best, if not the best, defensive third baseman in the game right now. I don't think there's any argument about that. I mean, how many times you turn on the TV and you see some sparkling play that he's made? He is filthy at third base. And I don't know why you wouldn't want him. He's 28 right now. He'll be 29 at the end of the season. So I get why he's a little older than Machado. You're kind of hesitant to do that because that'd be the same thing as offering a 10-year deal to someone like Cano. You know, Arenado probably wouldn't sign a 10-year deal, or the Yankees wouldn't go after him for a 10-year deal. But if you trade for him now and you lock him down long term, that takes care of your third base situation. I would assume the Rockies would be interested in someone young and promising like Andujar. So I don't see why he wouldn't be involved in the trade. But there's a lot of speculation that this is purely just a ploy from the Yankees to lower down Machado's market. I mean,
people always bring it back to Machado.
They always bring it back to Machado, and it very well could be. I mean, think about it. Anytime the Yankees get involved in any rumor, I mean, Corbin definitely played up the Yankees during his free agency. To get him a better deal. I mean, the Yankees never made him an offer, but the fact that they were involved and had interest and had him come visit Yankee Stadium, that probably helped him out a lot. So think about the Yankees now losing interest in a player like Machado in exchange for instead of focusing on a player like Arenado. The Phillies are going to be like, well, the Yankees aren't going to swoop in, or the White Sox are thinking the Yankees aren't going to swoop in last minute and make some crazy offer. If they have someone like Arenado, we'd be more comfortable offering him that $200 million instead of $300 million. So I get it, but I mean, what do you think? What do you think about Arenado?
I don't think it's like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't think all roads lead back to Machado. Okay. This is something totally different. I think this is what people think the Yankees are going to do. And now that they heard they're not in on Machado. A couple things. I don't see Colorado trading Arenado before the season. Colorado, I think, might be the best team in the West now because the Dodgers, ever since they kind of cleared house, they didn't make any moves. They really need outfielders. Their pitching isn't as good as it was without when they traded away Alex Wood. I don't think the Dodgers have made enough moves this offseason to stay the favorites in the West. I think Colorado has a real shot at winning that division because they weren't that far behind last year. So
that's true.
Trade Arenado now just doesn't make sense to me because you're basically saying we're close, but let's take another step back and we'll do this again in a few years.
Well, here's the other thing is you got to also look at the fact that Colorado has lost guys too. I mean, they lost LeMahieu. He signed with the Yankees. They lost Ottavino. Yeah. He signed with the Yankees. Those are two of their key guys. And if you're going to consider trading Arenado, then why not consider trading Blackman? Why not consider trading some of these other guys? There are a lot of things that can happen if they decide to go that route. But
I still think they're trying to win. I mean, they let LeMahieu go, but they signed a guy like
Daniel Murphy.
Daniel Murphy, which you don't do unless you think you can win this year. So I think they're still trying to win.
Yeah, they're a good team. You're right.
They are, and I don't think the Yankees get them before this season. Now, as far as next season, So a lot of people are saying there's no way Colorado lets a guy like Arenado go. He's the guy. If they're going to spend money on anybody, he's the guy. I know it's against the rules, but you gotta feel like the Yankees have some loosely affiliated player guy out there that says to Arenado's agent, maybe just hold back, pump the brakes on doing an extension in Colorado. You might want to wait and see what a certain team in New York might offer him next season. I think something like that's going on.
It's true, and again, that comes with the whole the Yankees being involved. If the Yankees, if they know that the Yankees are interested, they're going to play that up and try and get the biggest contract that they can. So yeah, I don't see why I'm with you. I don't see why they would. But let's play the hypothetical card. All right, if they did swing some sort of deal for Arenado and traded him and had the intention, and he was fully on board with signing an extension with the Yankees, what does it take to get him? What do you give up for someone like Arenado? If you're the Yankees?
Arenado, it's got to be something similar to what you give up for Kluber. It's kind of the same. I look at them as the same caliber of play at their positions, and it had to be an impressive package the Yankees send over of prospects and MLB ready players,
which obviously would include Andujar. I mean,
obviously,
if you're going to acquire a third baseman, you got to pretty much give up your current third baseman. There's no place else for him to play, so he's probably involved. You got to think that maybe 2 or 3 other big, or maybe another MLB level player, maybe like someone out of the bullpen or like a Tyler Wade or I don't know, maybe like Greg Bird or something like that. Someone who might still have value if they can prove that they have value. And he's MLB ready. But it's gonna take a lot to get someone like him. And you don't know if they do pull that off, if he is going to sign an extension. And even if he does, you're gutting your system for a position player, which are usually plentiful during the free agents during the offseason. I would much rather see the Yankees make a trade of this magnitude for a pitcher. And I've been saying that all offseason, right. And I'm sure you've been thinking the same way, because there aren't many good pitchers out there available on the free agent market. You want to make a trade for that. You want to sign a batter, sign a bat, trade for pitching. At least that's the impression that I'm getting. That's the way that people are talking this past offseason. So now
the only way to get Arenado, I believe, is through free agency next year. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a real possibility.
It is. And if they do end up missing out on Machado, that's what the Yankee fans are going to be looking forward to next year. Oh, well, they didn't get Machado. Let's focus on Arenado.
Yeah.
Weird that they run. So now Arenado put up some insane numbers last year. And I was looking at his stats, and we kind of talked about it earlier this week. Is he a really good player because he plays at Coors and half his numbers are from there, or is it just because maybe he just had a down year on the road? I looked at his splits, and every year he hits better at home than he does on the road, significantly better. Average wise, he still puts up 20-something home runs either way. Something else, I've noticed something else that you can always bring up, and that players are always going to want to hit better and feel better at home. Mm-hmm. It's just common sense. You want your batters to feel more comfortable hitting at home. Otherwise, what's the point of having them there? Look at Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, he played 112 games last season. He missed a lot of time, obviously, but it just so happens he played 56 games at home, 56 games on the road. He hit 352 at Yankee Stadium, and he only hit 212 on the road. So that's a big drop off. But you want Aaron Judge to hit better at home. So is it the Coors effect? I'd say to an extent, yes, because obviously players hit differently at Coors Field with the air being thinner. But he's still a very good hitter, Arenado. He's still going to hit 20 home runs on the road. He's still going to drive in almost 50 runs on the road. It's not necessarily a Coors effect. It's more of a comfort effect, really.
Yeah. Now, Coors definitely has its advantages as far as how hard the ball comes off the bat, how far it flies. I get that point. But it's definitely, I think, more of an issue of feeling comfortable at home more so on the road. On the road, you're just not sleeping in your own bed at night. It's different batter's box, different batter's eyes you have to look at. It's just a different feeling for any hitter little Arenado. I think Arenado's going to play good wherever
Mm-hmm.
he's batting, on the road or home, and he's still going to play defense on the road
Yep.
too, which is a
Absolutely.
huge thing. So I
Absolutely.
don't think it's only a Coors field effect. I'm not really worried about that.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I did look up Judge's career stats because last year he was a shortened year, and his whole career he's been the same way. He's hit 322 at home, 226 on the road, and home runs are 54 to 29. So it's over the course of his career, it's much better at home, because that's just where you feel comfortable. It's not that Yankee Stadium plays better to right-hand hitters because it doesn't. It's just more of a comfort level.
Well, it's one thing you step in the batter's box and you hear people chanting your name, cheering for you, and you feel like you have that support. Whereas you're stepping in to the batter's box at Fenway and everyone's booing you, cursing you out, telling you suck.
Right.
Obviously, players will never admit it, but it's got to take some sort of toll on a guy. So you can't focus on that kind of stuff. And Judge is still young. He's only 26 years old. I would assume that those numbers will gradually get better over time. He is a professional. He's a good hitter. He's a good defensive player. Right. I think he's the future captain of the Yankees.
Absolutely.
I mean, he is basically Derek Jeter. I mean, he's built the same way professionally. He's got that same kind of makeup. Not built physically. Obviously, he's twice the size of Jeter, but he definitely has that mentality. He was raised in a similar way Jeter was, with parents that kind of have that attitude, and that goes a long way as an athlete and as a Yankee. And I see a lot of fans considering him as the next captain. I don't see how you couldn't. He always says the right thing.
Always, and except for playing New York in front of Boston Rock.
Yeah, that may be a bit. That we can credit that to him being young still. He's only 26, so of course he's gonna. I think it was great.
And I'm sorry, they need villains. They need a little energy. Fans want Yankees and Red Sox to hate each other. I like that stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I just think it maybe sparked the Red Sox.
You know what? I don't buy that because the playoffs, if you have a chance to go to World Series that year, they're going to play as hard as they can every game. It has nothing to do with what song they heard.
No.
I'm sorry. It just doesn't. I don't see that.
And they were also playing it after they won, so.
Right.
But that's the Red Sox for you. All right, so back on topic here. That's Arenado. I wouldn't mind having him. I would say it's not the end of the world if the Yankees acquired him. He's a great player. He's a professional. He has that makeup that makes sense for the Yankees. If they have the opportunity for it, I say go for it. Signing him in the offseason, trading for him, sure, why not? I don't see it happening.
Well, this also gives the Yankees another year to look at Andujar. Everyone's writing Andujar off because it's his rookie year. Listen, he was a rookie. He could take a huge step next year in his defense, and he could hit even better as he did last year. He already led all rookies in doubles last year.
That's true.
He could be even better this year. I think we need to give Andujar another year, and maybe the Yankees feel more comfortable going forward with him than Arenado next year. I think we have a lot to see over the course of this season first.
That's true, and you bring up a very good point. And Andujar had a phenomenal season as a rookie, and he could get even better. He could hit 40 home runs next year. He could improve on defense. My concern is, what if he doesn't?
Right. Well,
I'm looking at it,
any player.
And you're right. And I'm looking at it more of, well, could his value be at its highest right now? Possibly. It could not. He's working very hard. I mean, I've seen a number of things on social media showing him working out, trying to improve his agility, trying to work on his fielding. And, you have guys like Reggie Jackson and legends saying that he can get better. And he can. He's still young. He is very young.
Right.
Jeter, I can't remember how many errors he made his rookie season.
It was more than Andujar, I know that.
Yeah. So, and Jeter won Gold Gloves down the road, and he stuck with the Yankees his entire career. If they don't sign Machado, give the kid a shot. You're right. Let him try it again. If he repeats or improves upon his season last year, then I would say you found your cornerstone.
Yep.
Another building block. If he regresses, and he regresses in a big way, then maybe you start leaning towards a guy like Arenado.
Yeah. All right. We'll see. Only time will tell, especially with guys that as young as him. So.
But as far as the rumor that popped up, I don't see that happening right now.
No, me neither.
I don't see them trading. I don't see them trading for him.
No.
All right. So we kind of talked about what has happened thus far this offseason around surrounding the players. We mentioned earlier in this how there are guys speaking out against how free agency has been handled so far, how players are being undervalued, and I mean there could be a potential strike coming up when the CBA meets for the next time, and there are a lot of guys that are just not happy with how things are going. I mean, what do you have to say about that, Brad?
Yeah, so it's strange and it's not good for a sport when you have two of the best players in the generation only have 2 or 3 teams in on them at most. It's a problem for the sport. And Evan Longoria brought that up on Twitter. He said it's something's going on in baseball. We need to really take a look at. There's no reason these two guys should have so few teams in on them. There's also over 200 free agents that aren't signed yet. And then you had Arrieta saying, I hope these players that are in the first 3 years of service see what's going to happen to them as they get older. It's a serious problem that most players are starting to actually see now. And it all falls on, I think, the team. The problem is that we have too many teams that are automatically thinking they're out of it and they don't want to go for it. There's no reason why those mid-tier teams can't make a move like to sign Machado or Harper and get right back into thickening things. But instead, they're all going the Tampa Bay Rays system or the Kansas City Royals system now, and they're just taking their time, being patient, and then when it's their window, that's when they pounce. And it's just not good for the sport. It's really not.
It's not. And then now you're seeing teams, and it's happening right now with Machado and Harper, where coming into this offseason, they were projected to be the first $400 million players. Well, now you get rumors out there saying, oh, well, now they're only getting offers of $175, $200 million. It's not good for the game. And the fact that it's January 20th, and neither of these guys are probably even close to signing. And like you said, there's 200 free agents that still have not been signed. And last season we saw a glimpse of guys not getting signed until halfway through spring training or even after the season starts.
Yep.
And that's not good for guys developing, preparing for the season. It's not good for the game when like even J.D. Martinez, which was one of the, and I hate to say it because he's a Red Sox, he was one of the best hitters in the game last season. He didn't sign until almost halfway through spring training.
No, and everyone already knew he was going to Boston. No other team made a play on him. Like, it was incredible how few teams wanted the guy.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that has been coming up now is, well, do you implement some sort of free agent signing deadline in the offseason?
I can go both ways on that.
There obviously would have to be rules that would be implemented along with this. If you were on a team last year or coming off a big contract, maybe all these guys have to sign before a certain date, like say the winter meetings or the first of the year, and then guys that are making a comeback or made below a certain number last year, they have another window, another deadline that they have to be signed by. And if you're not signed by that deadline, then you cannot be signed till after the start of the season, or something along that lines. I think that could bring an interesting new level of attention to the game, because look at the NFL; they have a signing deadline, and it's a frenzy that day. You get teams signing guys left and right. It brings a lot of attention to the NFL, even when they're not in season. It could do the same thing for MLB, especially when you have big names out on the market like Machado, like Harper. Teams, I mean, that's why I love the winter meetings, because you come to that part of the offseason and you know there's going to be all these big signings. And that was one of the big, major disappointing aspects of this past winter meetings. I was expecting all these big signings and nothing happened. And you see it across social media, you see it across, and it doesn't matter what team is making the signings. It's disappointing when you get all this buildup and nothing happens. And I think it could be good for the game, and it could be good for the players as well. I mean, imagine you're a big name free agent, Brad, right? And you have a signing deadline, and you know that you'll be signed before January 15th or before the first of the year. You have a certain comfort level now going into spring training. Now you have time to find a place to live down and we'll use the Yankees as this example. And you're signed by the Yankees. You have time to find a place to live down there during spring training. You have a place to live or find a place to live out in Manhattan or in the New York area. You give your family a chance to move. You are in a much better space mentally going into spring training as opposed to now you're the same. You're JD Martinez in this instance, and now you're getting signed, or Neil Walker. We'll use him. He's a better example. You're getting signed middle of spring training now. Now you have to rush to find a place. You maybe have to bunk with someone. Your family doesn't go to spring training with you. Now you have to scramble. It's like being traded in the middle of the season. You have to scramble to find all these things, and now you have that sitting in the back of your mind. There's no level of comfort going into this season.
Yeah.
And I could see a lot of the players bringing that up as an issue once this CBA expires.
I think the problem with something like that is then all the leverage goes towards the player, and I just don't think that the owner is going to sign off on that in the next CBA. And it's interesting, but I think all the leverage goes to the player because teams will be on against the deadline where the players aren't. Players will sit out if they need to. They'd like to know where they're going. They'd like to get a fresh start in spring training, but they don't need to. If they're more worried about getting their money, they'll wait. Teams will have to. The owners, the GMs will have their back against the wall. They won't have any leverage. I think that's going to be the problem. I think the more likely situation or solution to this, I believe, is going to have to come from the commissioner he's going to have to talk to the teams and say, listen, it's not good for our sport when we have so many teams not going after free agents. If you guys want to do this, fine, but it's going to be the death of our sport. I think it's going to have to be something like that from the commissioner. That's going to be the only solution here.
Well, I think you're right. If you're going to put a deadline on the teams, you got to do something that hurts the players as well. And maybe it is a salary cap or some sort of system where that your big name free agent isn't going to get that $400 million contract. He might get one of the highest contracts at that time, but you have to give and take something. You have to meet somewhere in the middle. Players probably won't let that happen. So maybe because the players won't let that happen and the teams won't let the deadline happen, maybe that means it's a good compromise. You got to meet somewhere in there. But it's definitely not good for the game when you get big names not signing halfway through. I mean, look at Le'Veon Bell in the NFL. He held out.
Right.
He didn't play at all this year. He probably would have put up an insane season because he's that good of a running back, but he didn't play at all this year.
That's because they have that stupid franchise rule that teams can use.
That's a whole different conversation.
We have to get into that.
But I mean, the concept's the same. He held out for a big contract from Pittsburgh and he didn't get it, right? Yeah. So he didn't play. Now imagine if that were to happen this past season in the MLB and JD Martinez was holding out for a big contract. He didn't get it, and he doesn't end up playing that last season. That hurts the Red Sox in a big way. They still have Mookie Betts and all those other guys, but you take J.D. Martinez out of that lineup, and it's a completely different lineup.
Right. That's why it's a great idea. I just think the leverage would be too much on the player side.
You have to find some sort of sacrifice that both sides would have to make in order for something like that to work. But I see something like that being a possible solution to prevent some sort of madness like this in the future, because it's just not fair to the players.
Right.
And I think the other big aspect is the fact that teams aren't willing to hand out these big contracts like they used to. Like the Yankees were giving out all these big $200 million contracts to multiple players all the time. You don't see that
Miguel
happening
Cabrera type contracts. That's really hurting Tigers now.
It is, and you're not seeing them give out long contracts. You might see an annual average value of $30 million, which would be a big thing. But you're not seeing 10-year contracts, which I can see why the players would want it, because they want to know they have job security.
Right. But 10 years, I sign up for that, because for 10 years you have guaranteed money. That's the thing about baseball is all the money's guaranteed too.
Yeah. So something has to be done. I don't know what it will be. I don't know where it's going to come from. But you can't keep having seasons like that. And that is why I think this could lead to another strike.
Well, let's hope not. But it's definitely not going the players' way right
now. Nope, absolutely not. But that kind of wraps up what we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about this last time. Obviously, we ran a little long. We're going to try and keep this around an hour or 45 minutes. We went a little long today, but it's just because there's so much to talk about. I would figure that during the season, these might get cut down a little bit just because, day to day.
We'll be just talking about what's going on in the field instead of off the field.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot of off the field drama going on in every aspect of the game right now. So I can see why it gets lengthened, but I really do enjoy this, and it's fun to kind of talk about these scenarios. It is interesting to think, well, what if this rule change was implemented, and maybe we can talk about stuff like that down the line, like the National League implementing the DH and other stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
It's completely different conversation. We don't have to get into that, but I think it is what it is. So let's wrap it up right now. It was a
good chat.
Good chat. A good second follow-up episode. Check us out on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9 yards, and we'll try and get a third episode in there soon. Hopefully, with some more good things to talk about. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Greg Andriano.
Yes, thank you for listening. I'm Brad McCormick, Brad or Chat at 1 on Twitter, and thank you so much. Spread the word, spread the video to everyone talk about us, because we'll talk about you.
You got it. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.